page. No, if you just go to the
That happened to my neighbor, so
yeah. We just
Okay, we're gonna go live in a few minutes here, but it's ready. This is Facebook. So as soon as I hit the go live, so we're Zoom. So Zoom is here. So right now, actually I'm gonna yeah, we have to stay legal here with our masks.
yes.
Okay, so I'm gonna break away. I'm gonna check on my computer to make sure everything looks good. So you guys go ahead and get started.
Oop. Did you make this taller? Oh, here. There it is.
There we go.
Where are you, sweetheart? In New Mexico or?
No, I'm actually in San Antonio. So I was teaching here when the lockdown happened. So here I am. It's good. I'm in a great spot. I'm with one of my best friends. It's lovely.
Aw, quarantine buddies.
Quarantine buddies. Buddy.
How's it gone without, did you have to cancel all your teaching and stuff?
Yeah. Yeah, I'm canceled through June. So
Yeah,
we'll see what happens
I think
after
that's about right. Yeah.
that. But I've been live streaming on Facebook every day.
Okay, so this is a great experiment. Thank goodness for Chris. She got us on Zoom, Facebook Live. And welcome to, I think, our 4th or 5th or 10th or 100th Saturday Sips. So it's the quarantine episode of, oh, Heather, hi, Heather. So Heather says blessings from Brooklyn. So one thing we're going to be focused on today are some of HeatherAsh's teachings when it comes to expanding the heart and working through the stories we tell ourselves. And so HeatherAsh, I don't know if you'd be willing to talk about warrior heart practice, but it's a really spectacular practice. So HeatherAsh is, tell us about yourself. I don't have to introduce you. I actually have you here with us.
I am the author of Warrior Goddess Training Series and of Warrior Heart Practice, which is how I met Zhena. And I live mostly on the road. I have an Airstream that I live out of, which happens to be parked in San Antonio right now, which is where I'm at. I'm really delighted to be here with everybody and share.
Great. And your background, you studied whenever I try to describe you in an elevator pitch, it's difficult because you're more of an experience than a description. So tell us a little bit about your background in healing and in working with Don Miguel Ruiz and just sort of the heritage that you, or the the teachings that you learned from and what you glean now. Thank you, Chris.
My background is really in Buddhism, just because I was raised in Southeast Asia. and was really steeped in that tradition. And so I think of myself as like I have three main threads, which is Buddhism from being raised in Southeast Asia, European shamanism, and just really working with the cycles and getting back in touch with nature in a really deep way. And then Toltec wisdom, which is through the lineage of Don Miguel Ruiz. I was really blessed to study with Don Miguel for many years and teach with the Ruiz family now. So if any of you don't know Miguel, he's the author of a book called The Four Agreements, and highly recommend it. It's like one of the Bibles of modern time.
It is.
Truly.
I reread it pretty often. Yeah.
It's a good
It's a good one. Well, wonderful. So it's interesting. So Buddhism from Southeast Asia, then European shamanism, and then Toltec wisdom from the Americas. You basically are covering the whole planet. It's a planetary wisdom.
Planetary wisdom. And that's what I feel is that I, with deep, deep respect, like, open to different traditions and what the main teaching tools and the practical ways that we can come back into harmony with ourselves and with life.
Absolutely. My world religions professor used to say, we're all trying to get to the same place. Don't get caught up in the jargon. Like, beautiful. So today I wanted us to really be in a mindful place of ritual and ceremony. We did our magic hour tea ceremony with our staff earlier, and we were all, of course, 6 feet apart, and gloves and masks and all of that. And one of the women who works with me said, I forget, I got so busy, I forgot about ritual. I forgot about the simple things that make me feel like, make me expand. Right. And so talk a little bit about how you see ritual, and then maybe take us through 1 or 2 of your favorites.
Yeah. Ritual is a way for us to mark transitions, and we have very few rituals kind of left in our culture. We have birthdays and we have weddings and sometimes funerals, Christmas, Hanukkah. Like, there's some of these cyclical rituals that we do, but really what we want to do is start to use ritual as a way to honor what we're letting go of and what we're stepping towards. Because the truth is that whenever we're moving towards something, birthing something new, we're also letting something go, we're letting something die. And so honoring that cycle and doing it in a way that's physical rather than mental. We tend to try to think our way through things of like, if I can just, rally my energy to take this next step. But your being, your body, your energy, your psyche needs physical movement to honor the transitions, and needs ways of the body being able to release things. And so working with the elements for me has been the main way to do that, to call in guides and support. And, it can be as simple as creating sacred space of lighting a candle or having a cup of tea, or, really elaborate calling in the directions. And then what do you want to let go of? What do you want to clear? And I always think about use the elements, like breathe something into air, or wash something away to release, or put something into the fire, or bury something to let it go. And then the same thing with then the next step is bringing in, what do you want to create? And then you use movement to bring that in, or lighting a candle consciously. So there's lots of different ways, but that rhythm of creating sacred space, letting something go, bringing something in, claiming what you want, and then letting it integrate and settle in your body.
I love that. When I lost my last tea company, Zena's Gypsy Tea, I was having a hard time. There was a part of my psyche I could tell that was just filled up still, and there was no space for anything new. And so I decided to have a funeral for the company, and I invited all my friends, and I told them to wear black, and we had a procession, and we buried the tins of tea on my property. And it was literally like magic. Magic hour came to be like so much faster, because I always have thought that the subconscious does not understand words, and it doesn't understand, it understands symbols. And so when we're in ritual, like for me, pouring a cup of tea means pay attention, breathe, be aware, go into your senses. And so So tell us, you've done a lot of work with like fire walking and things like that. Can you talk a little bit about what that brings to, what extreme ritual can also bring to the table? Because I don't know that many people who teach people how to walk on fire.
Yes, my love of the elements expands, especially to fire. And it's one of my greatest blessings is to be able to offer the fire walk. And it really is a ceremony. It's a ceremony that humans have been doing for thousands and thousands of years. Basically, as long as humans have been in relationship with fire, we've been walking on it as a way to raise energy, as a way to bring healing in. And so I offer the fire walk as a ceremony for us to cross over our fears and realize you can you can be afraid and still do things that are scary. And that the fire walk is really a representation of the firewalks in our life. And we all have tons of firewalks. Like we're in the middle of a big firewalk right now. Like, hello, pandemic. Like, how do we navigate this? For me, this is a firewalk.
Yeah.
And the gift of the fire walk is you show up with the fire, with your body present. So there isn't like, I'm definitely walking or I'm definitely not walking. Every time I walked for thousands and thousands of times, literally. And every time I come to a fire walk, I come in relationship with the mystery.
The mystery of what, I mean, you have to be present when you're walking on fire.
Yes. And whether is it time for me to walk on fire today or not? So the relationship is with total this moment in relationship with this fire. They're all different.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And so,
I love that this is like a great fire walk, this pandemic and what we're going through. Earlier I was taping the Red Table Talks with Jada Pinkett Smith, and they were talking about relationships. Like there's going to be a baby boom and a divorce boom after this. Like everything is being accentuated, everything. And one thing they were saying, which I so appreciated, was that it used to be like you could be married to someone for 15 years, but if you were both super busy and out of the house all the time, you didn't know like if you were compatible in this element, right? So I feel like right now we're getting to know our hearts more. I've been marveling at not only understanding my husband's heart more and my children and my friends that I've been quarantined with, my staff, but I've also been noticing like I feel more tender, and all of our customers, like we've been running out of things because people are drinking a lot of tea right now, and I've been saying, oh, I'm so sorry, this is going to be late. Oh, it's okay. And I mean, just the kindness and generosity. What would you say this pandemic or this experience is doing for opening up the heart of our culture and of ourselves individually?
It's so often that crisis brings out the best in us, and it also brings out the worst in us.
Mm-hmm.
And so to see the best coming out of people's generosity, people's love, people's tenderness, I think that's something the pandemic's really done, is made us all feel the vulnerability of how interconnected we are, how much we need each other. I was talking to a friend of mine who's, she's like this very tough woman. And she's like, I miss hugs so much. I didn't know I was a hug person. I really miss hugs. And just for her, like to realize how tender her heart is, really.
Yeah.
I've always known this about her, tough exterior. But
Yeah.
that's, I think, for all of us, where we're really recognizing how much we need each other, and that the beauty that we can reach out to each other in little ways. And now we have the time to do that more consciously.
And what do you feel is going to be the new normal? What are your hopes for when the stay-at-home orders are lifted? Like in the Bay Area, my girlfriend said May 4th they're going to start lifting them, and I don't want things to go back to how they were. I mean, I don't want people to be dying. But I do not want to be the same. What will change for you, and what do you think will change for us as a people?
My prayer is that what changes is that we keep this mindfulness of slowing down. And it's tricky because some people are having the exact opposite. like they're working 14 hours a day, they're on their computers all the time, or they're in healthcare, or they're in the grocery store. And so there's a real split right now of what's happening. There are people that are working much harder than they've ever worked before. And there are people that are not working and are like, wow, I have time to like go do that craft project I put off for 10 years.
Yeah.
So to honor both people's right now, or both experiences that we're having, and some people are really struggling financially.
Yeah.
People are sailing through, and it's okay. So that my prayer is that we all come out of this realizing how deeply interconnected we all are, and being mindful that we're all having different experiences. So I think that one of the things that it's done is it's broken apart this place of focus on the individual, like I am separate from everyone else, and made us realize if you're in the hospital with COVID-19, like it's completely neutral. It's not going for one group of people. Anybody can get it. Anybody can be taken down by it. And so that recognition of that we're all in this together, and that my prayer is that we really start breaking down the separations that we've created between each other, and really see each other's humanity and work towards that, of honoring more and more of the humanity and more of our creativity and our sense of stillness. That as well.
Yeah. I really have the same prayer as you, that, you know, we can be more connected as, I mean, before all this was happening, I mean, there was so much divisiveness and such a sense of dread that something would happen, you know, and the fighting and the, you know, racism and all the stuff that was coming to a head. I kept thinking, like, somebody's going to blow something up, something, you know, something's going to happen. And it was Mother Earth, you know, or who knows, but it was a health-based thing with us. And I thought, well, you know, when over the summer, when they were burning down the rainforests in South America, and Mia and I were in Asia, and the smog and the, you know, everything was so much pollution. I kept thinking, this can't sustain. There's no physical way this can sustain. So with us as women and as individuals, what would be, you know, a practice that you would want everybody to walk away with? I mean, you have so many practices that you teach, you know, depending on what medicine is needed at the time. What medicine would you like to take us through today? In any type of practice. I love the Warrior Heart practice. It's about stories. And I think that there are a lot of stories that are still continuing to cycle through. And then there's also, you know, you have in Warrior Goddess training, you know, you have several practices. What would you like to share with our audience today as the practice to move us through the next week or year or lifetime? No pressure.
So many. So I'll say one of the practical ones that I found very helpful for myself, and that I think is really applicable right now, is the part of the Warrior Heart practice is about separating out our emotions from our story.
Yeah.
And that often they're really tangled together. So we have emotional response to something, we tell ourselves a story about it, the story triggers more of the emotion, and we just go back and forth. And what's really tied in that is what I call disaster mind. Watch your mind. For most of us, our mind is either worrying about the future and what might happen in the future, or is looking back at the past and worrying about what happened in the past or how not to make the past happen again. So that disaster mind is all over the place. And the Warrior Heart practice is a really simple practice to start that process of separating out the places that have gotten really, really tangled, and learn how to witness what's happening in my emotional body versus what's happening in my mind. And it takes that willingness to turn towards your emotional body and ask yourself, what am I actually feeling right now? Not what am I thinking about what I'm feeling, or what do I wish I was feeling, or what do I wish I was not feeling? And most of us run away from our feelings. We're constantly exiting our feelings. And that's something that this pandemic has also done, is it said, all right, sit. Like, what's going on, sweetheart? Because there's a way that I've talked to a lot of people that are like, oh my gosh, all this feeling is coming up,
Yeah.
which is good.
Yeah.
So to really turn towards it. And my favorite practice is just one hand on the heart, one hand on the belly, and to come in back into relationship with the physical body and the emotional body. And to say, hi, sweetheart, what are you feeling right now? What are you feeling? What's going on? And then let yourself be with the feelings without trying to understand them, fix them, intellectualize them. Just, hi, baby, what's going on? We can just do that right now. Just take a breath.
Let's do that now. And I'd love to, when you're done, ladies, I'd love you to put your comments in the chat about what came up for you. But yeah, let's just sit with that.
So if you let yourself open to what you've been feeling, what's been going on with you around the pandemic or some challenge that you've been having, and then go in and just really gently let the feelings come up and be with them. Just breathe into noticing, where are those feelings in your body? Where do you feel the emotions physically in your body? And just breathe, just be with them. That's all. As you drop in, you might find different layers. Like there's one layer of an emotion and you might sense another one. Just noticing, where are they in your body? Gently breathing into whatever you're experiencing right now. Good. And then just go ahead and share. What did you notice? So some of you, you may feel really calm right now and have a sense of peace. Some of you may feel anxious around what's happening.
My body talked to me. It was sad.
Oh.
It said, I want you to love me as much as I love you.
Oh.
Because I've been just like, oh, I need an adjustment. I need a massage. Like I have to figure out new ways of self-care that I used to have help with. So that was good. It made me cry. Alexandria, what began as fear transitioned to an optimism, deeper connection with self, focus on the smaller things never seen in the madness, highly creative time. Yeah, creativity's been coming up for a lot of people.
Yes, which
Yeah.
is great. So exciting.
Yeah. Well, and creativity is how I think, you know, we will solve the challenges of our world when we come out of this. You know, how will we apply that? Would anybody else like to share what they were feeling or that came through? Alicia or Barbara or Angela, but what comes up for you when you ask yourself that, HeatherAsh?
What came up right now is a feeling sense of calm, and also I'm in the process right now of doing a huge transition of buying some land, and it's been put off a lot. It's very exciting. So it's like the final, hopefully on Wednesday we'll close. So there's definitely like this tension of like,
yeah, the anxiousness of anticipation, right? Because there's no control in that.
Exactly. It felt very out of control.
Oh, Elizabeth says she noticed her throat feels tight. That's a big one because there's things we want to say that I have June as a throat tea. It's a fifth chakra tea. So I've been working on a lot with that. Cindy says a desire to be a catalyst through kind assertiveness versus being passive or coming across as aggressive. Needs can be met through a kinder manner now. That's interesting. I do feel that there's more space for kindness right now. Good. That's insightful, Cindy. Henriette asked, I also first felt fat, me too, and laughed when Zhena said that. I think it was the hand on the belly. Me too. I noticed, oh, there's all the stress eating right there. Alicia says she feels things are still moving too fast. And I agree, because everybody's waiting to get back at it. So we're not actually fully all present in the slowing down. We're anticipating yeah, I agree. So Diane says, been feeling a lot of anger this week for all the wanton destruction of small businesses and so many people's lives. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I was told by the banker to apply for the small business loan on a Friday. I went to the banker when it opened up on Friday. She said, apply on Monday. And I applied on Monday and it was gone.
Yeah.
It was, and she told me at Wells Fargo, go on Monday. And she said, oh, I'm sorry, sweetheart, it's gone. And I was like, oh my God, like, so I agree. And there's so many businesses that aren't able to function. So I agree, Diane. And Lee's deep gratitude to SIPS being a touchstone and makes me feel close to my brilliant deceased mother who introduced me to esoterica and Carl Jung and working with symbols and dreams, honoring the subconscious. Yeah, you have a mystic soul, don't you, Lise? You're a walking mystic. I miss seeing your face. Heather said initially her shoulders, throat, neck felt pressure, and the word was inadequate. Oof.
Mm-hmm.
Having taken on a complex, important responsibility, struggling with knowing I am capable. Yeah.
Yeah, beautiful. And for the places where you're feeling anger or inadequate, or I had a huge vulnerability come up on Friday, and this deep tenderness. Just be with it for a little bit. Just don't try to make it go away or understand it or figure out why you like no story. Just be with the anger. Period. Be with.
I love how you do it, where you say, "Oh, sweetheart, what's going on?" You've always used that term, and I remember the first time I sat with you, putting my hand on my chest was new because it was something I do for my babies, right? But or my husband or a friend, but to do it for myself and then to call myself sweetheart, it's always whenever I remember to do that, HeatherAsh, it is so impactful. Barbara, feeling super focused and staying in the moment. My third eye has been aching a bit every day and then tight in the belly too. Yeah, it can hurt almost all the insights that are coming right now. I've had that feeling of like, holy cow, there's so much coming through, and how do I capture it all? Like, it's been a creative force, very powerful. And Cindy, is there a tea that you recommend that might promote a healthy communication at this time? Yes, I'll get into that. And Alexandria wrote, it's gone. Susan, I've been sewing beautiful masks and selling them on my website for $1. That's sweet. Unfortunately, my gesture of giving my time and energy to people that have been abusive and has really hurt my heart, deciding how I want to continue lovingly giving without being taken advantage of. Yeah, this is also, I'm going to segue from that, Susan. This is a time for boundaries. I mean, we have to quarantine ourselves to protect ourselves. We have to, like, if somebody is going outside of the quarantine or getting too close, I was walking down the street earlier and I had a mask on, and this couple was walking toward me without a mask, and they were like getting really close. And I felt myself going, we kind of have all agreed that there's this boundary thing right now. So I feel like right now, are you finding that boundaries are getting stronger? And are you finding that, HeatherAsh?
I am, just because it's been really interesting for me, because I'll have these, the first week that we went into lockdown, my friend Mary, who's with me, we live streamed 24/7 for a week. And so we were on all the time. Like overnight, we set up an altar, the camera was always running.
Wow.
And it was beautiful. And then a week in, I was like, okay, this has to change. And so like, we've really been taking turns of like, I took a week off, then she took the next week off, and really finding boundaries with myself, especially of like where I wanted to do projects. And I'm like, and I could still not do the project, or you could actually do it, sweetheart. Like, come on, let's go, let's focus.
Yeah.
So I think it's really important. And it's a beautiful thing too, that we can also have that opportunity to learn how to make those boundaries cleanly inside of ourselves, for ourselves, and then with other people as well.
And are you finding that boundaries, like for me, the boundaries were enforced externally on us, but it's shown me where my boundaries have been weak?
Yes, I really agree. And I
Yeah.
agree with that. Yeah. And the place with the warrior heart practice is really about having good boundaries with yourself, because you're doing the boundaries of what do I feel? And then you're telling yourself over and over again, not the story, that you don't go into the story, you just be with the feeling. And then you go to the story. And then the question is, okay, what am I telling myself? What's the story? So like the woman who is saying that she's feeling taken advantage of, start with how does that feel?
Yeah.
Period. Not what's the story of why you feel taken advantage of, but just where is that in your body? What else is there? Because there's old stuff there to be healed.
Yeah.
And once you let yourself feel it, then you go to, all right, what's the story I'm telling myself? And that place of starting to excavate the layers of the story.
I think we should have everybody grab their journals and just take them quickly through that. And this is the essence of the warrior heart practice, which HeatherAsh has a book called Warrior Heart Practice. And it's at first I was like, oh, this is such a simple process. And then I'm like, oh.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh yeah, I got that. I can do that. And then I'm like, oh yeah. So everybody grab your journal. I know you guys are used to me telling you to do it, but HeatherAsh, let's go through that. Let's take a story and move it through the 4 chambers.
Yeah, absolutely.
Let's take a global story.
Okay. Pandemic.
Yeah, let's take it. Let's do it, because I mean, the practice has to be applicable to everything, and I feel it is. So go ahead. Let's do it as a culture, as a people. Move through the practice.
Yeah, we can do it on the pandemic, and we can do it on just any challenge you have. So if you're not feeling challenged by the pandemic, which some people aren't, some people are like, this is great.
My daughter.
Your daughter, exactly.
You're like, I'm eating so much popcorn and I don't have to get up and go to school, and oh my God, I love it. Like she's
So where we start with, if we're doing it from a global level, which is just, what do you feel about the pandemic right now? So what's the worry or the anxiety for yourself personally? So it might be around finances, it might be around your health, it might be about your grandmother's health. It might be around what's going to happen next. How are we going to open everything back up? How are we going to be safe? Is this the first of many? So just start with the feelings of that. What do you feel when you think about the pandemic? And just be with that for a moment. And if you want to journal and write, but mostly just check in with the feeling sense in your body of what arises around this current challenge that we're all in. Just breathe into that for a moment. You're not trying to fix it, tell a story about it, understand it. Just let yourself be in the tenderness or the anger or the frustration, whatever's there. And we can have just so much compassion for how people are struggling, even if you're not personally struggling, that there's a lot going on right now, and to really just let ourselves feel it, even if it's not ours personally. There's beauty of just opening our hearts to, like, oh, this is hard. Yeah.
yeah.
And then that next step is to then, what's the story? What's the story that you're telling yourself about the pandemic, around your worry? So what's your disaster mind? That's a really good way to think of it. Where does your disaster mind go? This is a good one to write down. So what's your worst case scenario? What's your fear? What are you worried about? And it might be around your relationship. It might be around your business. It might be around the world. And what's powerful about the story chamber is, again, now you're just focusing on what's the story that I'm telling myself, and be really curious. What else is it connected to? Is there a deeper story happening right now? So you may find a deeper sense of being lost that's familiar to you from being a kid. You may feel a sense of not knowing what's next, or that you don't have what it takes. You're not smart enough. Like, be curious if there's a deeper story as well. And just write that down. Yeah, that you feel trapped. And notice, have I felt this before? I had a really deep story come up around being confused and not knowing what to do next. And when I felt into it, I was like, oh, this is an old story. This isn't an adult story. This is a kid story. So that's what we want to be curious about in that story chamber is there a deeper story that's underlying that we can witness and start to untangle by witnessing it, by being curious.
Yeah, my story is that we'll go back to abusing the planet as badly as we were before, because the business world associates business with destroying the planet pretty much right now. Like, they don't have a new story. And I feel that when the lockdown ends, we're just going to be flying around on whims again in planes. We're going to be using up, and that the air, it's so clear and there's so much less traffic and families are eating together. And I'm sad ahead of time to lose the environmental harmony and the togetherness that we've been having. So my story is that that something this good on that side has to end, that there's no such thing as so that's a big story.
Yeah.
Cindy feels that way too.
Yeah. And is there a deeper story to that for you personally?
Oh yeah, I can trace it perfectly back. Yeah.
Beautiful. Yeah. So that's a story. And what we want to do next is then look at what's true. And here's what I'll share, a couple things that are true, and then each of you can play with. What we want to do is step then cleanly into the truth chamber. And the truth chamber is super simple. One sentence, period. And that you'll feel it in your body when it's the truth. And so a truth is, we don't know what's going to happen next.
Yeah.
True, right? You can have all sorts of stories of what's going to happen. It's going to get better. It's going to get worse. We're all going to be in harmony. We're all going to go back to the normal thing. And it's just, we don't know what's going to happen next, period.
And for all of you control freaks out there, that's not an easy one. me.
Totally. And true. What else do we know is true? Is the only thing we can control is our choice. So we have sovereignty over our own choices. So for those of us that are like, I want it to change, the truth is I can change me, period. And so just letting, the animals are so happy. That is true.
That is definitely true.
And they're kind of always happy. Maybe they have more space to be happy. But
maybe we're noticing how happy they are right now.
Yeah.
There seems to be a lot of animal sex going on in my yard. There's like babies everywhere.
Great. What else is true? So anybody else, what else is true that we can really just rest into for yourself or for the planet right now? What else is true?
I think this has given people enough pause, or it's given me enough pause to know that I won't go back to the way it was.
Yeah, beautiful. So that just resting into that, I will choose to not go back.
Yeah. And Judith says quiet is healing. Absolutely. Very, very.
And so Judith, for you, so that truth of quiet is healing, more quiet. Yeah. Good. What else? It's time to be more mindful of our actions always towards others. That's your truth.
Yeah.
You know, I want to be mindful. I choose to be mindful.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm much more patient.
Hmm.
I don't think I've ever been this patient.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Perhaps we can hold hope that it is a healthy change we can look forward to. Yeah, if that's true for you, right?
Well,
But you
again,
can't really hope.
because we're putting it out there. You can,
Mhm.
but you have to realize it's a story.
Yeah.
But it is a story. You can hold hope in your heart, but you have to understand you can't control other people's actions. We can pray, we can take action,
Mhm.
and humans are going to do what they're going to do.
Yeah. Diane says, start being who I haven't let myself become yet.
Mm.
Oh, I love that, Diane.
Yeah.
And Alicia says, I choose to live a more sacred, heart-centered life. Yeah, Alicia, you're doing a good job of it, sweetheart. Like, you know, I've been noticing, like today, we shipped probably 60 boxes and half of them were gifts.
Oh, I love that.
Every day. I mean, some days it's 100 and there's so many gifts. I've never noticed people giving so much. And every time I see that, you know, I just get so like, I love that people are giving and sharing their love. That's so heart-centered. Cindy
So,
says, I see that's true. Thank you for the clarity. Oh yeah.
yeah,
Heather, you're in Brooklyn. I know, space for transformation. In a crowded city, you can still find space.
because it's here.
Yeah, it's here. Right in
And
the
there's a beautiful truth. It's here. Like the transformation we're seeking starts here.
mm.
Period. That is true. Yeah.
Perhaps we can feel that we are interconnected. I think, Jean, what HeatherAsh is saying is what's like, instead of the we, I think the only thing that's true that we know is us. Is that true?
Yeah. I mean, we can say general, like, here's another truth.
Mm-hmm.
There is a virus, period.
Yeah.
There's always viruses.
Mm-hmm.
There will be more viruses, period.
Mm-hmm.
So if we understand this isn't like this anomaly, it is an anomaly, but it's also not an anomaly. It's novel because of how catchy it is and how long lasting it is. And we're always going to be, we've always navigated pandemics and epidemics as humans, and we will continue to navigate them. So if we can just, there's something beautiful about just saying there are viruses, period.
Yeah.
Because then we can respect it rather than fear it.
Yeah. So, Jean, it might be that I feel more interconnected, right? 'Cause I do too. I've never felt so interconnected. um,
We are interconnected.
yeah. Yeah.
That is true. But then no story after that, which means we should, or they should, or it's just,
Mhm.
we are interconnected. That is true. Now, what do you want to do with that?
Yeah.
That deep understanding. And
Mm.
the fourth part of the practice, the fourth chamber, is what we call the intent chamber. So that's, what do you want
Mm-hmm.
for yourself? And this is where Zhena, like what she's saying is, go back to yourself. This, the truth is very true with that, but especially with your intent. What do you want? And it's one word. So what one thing do you really want to grab onto as your focus coming out of the pandemic, of your gift to yourself, of your commitment? One word. If you could only choose one word of where you wanted to put your attention, it might be creativity, it might be freedom, it might be speaking the truth,
Barbara says freedom. Yeah.
authenticity.
Mhm.
Yeah, beautiful.
Authenticity is a big one out of this, because
Yes.
the things we would just say in passing when we'd see people, it's we've gotten all a lot more authentic through this, I believe.
Yes, I think so. Beautiful. Luminosity. Oh, I love.
Oh, I love that word. Karen says empathy. Heather says fulfilled.
Beautiful.
Catherine, embodied presence.
Bridge.
Yeah, absolutely. Jean says, I mean that I may be okay, but there are so many others who are lined up at the food bank and in financial issues. More kindness. Yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely.
I
That
think
might,
that's the empathy.
yeah,
Yeah.
or your intent might be more kindness for yourself. And this is what's important about the intent, is that you don't want to create an intent that's, I want them to be kind.
I want us all to be kind. It's, I want to be more kind.
I will be
I
kind.
will be kind.
I will be more kind. Simplicity. Oh, so good. Do you feel that? Like, yes, simplicity. And that's your North Star. That's what you're going to hold on to and bring back into your life post-pandemic, you know,
That intent.
that intent. And that becomes your question. How do I bring more simplicity? How do I bring more kindness? How do I bring more embodied presence? And then you go back through. So you grab the truth. So the practice then, to close the practice, you have your word of your intent. You go back into the truth chamber. What's true? And then you go back into the story. And this is where we get to really untangle the story and be creative in, what do I want to do with this story? We're always going to have a story. We're always going to make up stories, but I always think of, like, make up better stories, people, for all of us.
Absolutely.
Like, become the heroine of your story. And sometimes what happens is you go back in and the story just dissolves.
Absolutely.
And you realize it's not true. And sometimes you look at it and you're like, oh, this is going to take me a while. Because some of these stories are deep, like from our families, from our childhood, from our ancestors. And those ones are going to take a while to untangle, and that's okay.
Yeah. I love that. So just really quick, so go through the 4 chambers so everybody can remember, because this is a practice I found I'll use sometimes in the shower. Like I'll start going through it like, oh, I should do that. And it really does unwind the stories and get me back to center quickly, because it ends in that intent.
Yes.
You know, it begins and then ends. And so the, be your own superhero. Absolutely.
I'm just writing down the little process and then I'll share.
Oh, perfect.
So you start in the feeling chamber. When something's up, when you're confused, when you're triggered, when you're scared, what am I feeling? Breathe. Just be with the feelings. So first chamber is the feeling chamber. And then the story chamber. What am I telling myself? What's the story? So you let yourself be with the story and don't try and make it better or spiritualize it. Just be in the judgment, victimization, the rawness of whatever the story is. And then the third chamber is the truth. What's true here? What do I know is true? And it's a practice to learn how to move towards the truth and open bigger than your story to what's actually true. So simple, one sentence, and then your intent, even more simple. So you can see it gets more spacious. Intent, what do I want? What's my focus? Where do I want to put my attention? And then you go back to the truth. And I love to see this. It's like you're holding hands with your intent. And I think about it as, what's the quality of that intent? What, if you could characterize it, who would it be? So if you could imagine that it was, you know, is it this amazing magician with this huge hat and this total power, or is it this really soft, goddessy, flowy person? That's your new guide, is your intent. And then also your other guide is the truth. What's true? And then you go back into the story chamber and you're going to look at with really different eyes at your story.
I love that. And I always start the group with an intent of what they want to experience or move through during one of our tea ceremonies. And I love how you end with the intent, because then it cycles back into the beginning of the new. So we began this conversation talking about ritual, and the heart chamber, you know, moving through the 4 chambers is the ritual of death and rebirth, right? It's birth, death, and rebirth. Like it's just this, it has all the elements of dying every day and being reborn every day in it. What story is the truth? Karen asks.
What if the story is the truth? I would invite you to question it, because it rarely is, but it's going to really seem like it is. And I realize I just did the process. I just wrote it down wrong. So you end in, you want to also go back
to the feeling. Yeah. It begins with the feeling, it ends in the feeling. Yeah. So Karen, if the truth is, if the story is, I am sad, then, and that's your truth at the time, then it's not a story, it's the truth. But I've found with doing this practice over the last few years, actually now since we've met, and I worked on this with you, is is that my stories are often running me, and the truth often is the one, it breaks the spell. It's just that snap, and all of a sudden it's like, oh, I can see again. So so the story is often, long. And you've explained that before, Heather. It's often got a lot of layers to it, and then she said, and then this happened, and then and the truth is, the truth is basically it made me sad, or I felt sad. I feel sad.
Yeah. And here's an example from my life. Like, I was really lit up last week because I said I'm in the process of buying the land. It's been very, something that's very simple. It's been very complicated in a way.
Mm-hmm.
And my land partner that I'm buying the land from was like, okay, I'm ready to go. Yes. Like, he had said, I want to get a lawyer, and then, okay, not getting a lawyer. So on Friday, he agreed, we were ready to go. And then I don't hear anything at all until Wednesday. So Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, I was like, what is he doing? Like, what is going on? It's so much anger and so much frustration because it's been going on for a month and a half now. And I had to keep stopping myself and going, what do I know is true here? He hasn't responded, period. That's all I know.
Mm-hmm.
Everything else I'm making up is all story. All the feelings, and so I just sat with the feelings and then really looked at the story. And I realized there was a very old, like, child abandonment that had gotten lit up. And I had to just keep coming back to, I don't know. He just hasn't responded, period. And at some point I opened it and I was like, oh, he's getting a lawyer.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I didn't know if that was true, but it felt like the truth. And when I got that, I was like, period. That's what he needs.
Yeah. It has nothing to do with you, actually.
Nothing to do with me. And I was making this whole story of, like, he doesn't trust me. He's, delaying it purposefully. All of that was noise.
Yeah, it is.
The truth was, he needed a lawyer to feel comfortable with the sale, period. Everything else was my stuff.
I love that. Cindy says, I can really relate to that. I feel like anxiety. It feels like anxiety when I go through this thought process too. It is noise for sure. Yeah. And the heart doesn't have noise. The heart's essence is truth. And so if it's noise, it's your story. If your heart feels like it's either it's present to an emotion, basically. It doesn't have to be happy and joyful and expansive. It could be sad and crushed, but the heart is going to tell the truth while the mind is spinning the yarn and creating, very elegant novels in our dreams and all of that. Well, I just want to thank you so much, HeatherAsh. And I know Lady Gaga, and we have 5 o'clock. There's a huge online world concert. All the stars are doing it from their home. And so I want to give everybody time. If they want to enjoy some music. I don't know what Lady Gaga is going to be wearing. Gay and Katie invited me to a concert with her, and I was so excited, but it got canceled. So I'm like, I'm going to watch her online. So, yeah, Diane, we'll send that. Oh, you're welcome, Cindy. But thank you, HeatherAsh, for all the service you do for the good in each of us. Thank you for expanding our hearts and our ability to understand the language of the heart. It is, truly miraculous work that you do on this planet, and you make us all better. And not because you're trying, but because you're serving that and what is from your heart to ours. So that comes across as authenticity and true heart of service. Thank you. And to all of you, may you be blessed. May you feel expansive. I will be at the tea company packing orders while I listen to Lady Gaga. I love you all. I love you. And I will talk to you guys. I will see you next Saturday for the next Saturday Sips. Bye, HeatherAsh. Mwah. Be well.
For all that you do. It's so beautiful.
Bye, sweetheart. Thank you.
Bye. Bye, everybody.